Alrighty, good evening, students.
Hello. Hi.
Alright, today we're going to be going over a lesson called Life Divided. This is here. And the key word we're going to be going over today is the concept of segregation. Now remember our last lesson was about Martin Luther King Jr. and what he stood and fought against. And one of the things that he fought against, segregation. So, segregation involves the definition, setting apart or separation of people or things from others or from the main body or group. And how that looked like in terms of its relation to Martin Luther King Jr. is that it was heavily applied in the civil rights movement, the separation between colored people and the general population. Martin Luther King Jr. peacefully fought against this practice of segregation, and it required people of color to have lesser accommodations than, white people at the time. All right, and we'll be going over some examples of segregation. So here we have a school. You can see the school is well funded, and the nicer things go to the people that were not segregated against. Typically, it was mostly white people, but people of color would go to another school. And this is an example of segregation because it separated people based on color. It gave less to a certain group of people, and it's favored the other group of people. So obviously, like how I just explained, white people were favored, colored were not. Okay, here we have another example. This is a bus. For those of you that know Rosa Parks, maybe it'll be another lesson from today. But this is a bus. We see that their preferred seating. We see people in the front. If you look closely, you can see people in the back are colored people, segregation. So this is an example of segregation because it separated people based on color. It gave less to a certain group of people, and it required colored people to sit in the back of the bus. Here we have another example. Here we have an old picture. You can see that, if you can read that, it says colored waiting room. So in all terms of society, they try to separate colored people from the general population. This is just one example. And this is at a train station. So if it's at a train station, you can only imagine where else it would be, right? So this is an example of segregation because it separated people based on color. It did not allow the unity of people in common places, and it intentionally sought out to make the lives harder for specific people. All right, now those are just some examples of segregation. Now we'll be going over some non-examples. Here we have what I believe is to be students about your age working on something. This is an example of school today, and this is an example of not segregation because it does not separate children based on the color of their skin. We all get that?
Yes.
Here's another non-example. Here we have a sports team. Maybe another future lesson will be the life of Jackie Robinson, who was a pioneer of getting transitioning all people to be able to play one sport. Here we have a basketball team. It seems like a basketball team of girls. And if you look closely to the picture, you have all types of people from different cultures and heritages. And this is an example of sports today. And it's not segregation because all people are welcome to be on the same team and work together to win. All right, here we have another non-example. It looks like we have a couple of college graduates. And this is an example of society today. In what way? Well, because everyone is given an equal opportunity to go to college for a higher education. All right, now it's your guys' turn to decide. Your turn to decide. Here we have what I believe is a park. If you guys want to go ahead and look in that picture and see if you think that is an example of segregation or not. All right.
No. I think it is an example.
It's an example of segregation?
Yeah, I only see white people.
You only see... Sorry, it might not be big enough for some of you in the back.
The people playing soccer.
You see these people here?
Yeah. And then
Oh, okay. Yes, you're right.
Yeah?
So
All
it's
right.
not an example.
Yeah, well, let's see. Let's see who's right, all right? Here's a park. All right, we already got that. And it is not an example of segregation because everyone is welcome to enjoy the activities a park has no matter what skin color.
Okay.
Yeah, we do see a couple of different colored people right there in the back. They look unbothered, so
Yes.
not an example, okay? All right, here we go. I think here's a library. It's a little animated. You might guys have to look a little bit closer.
segregated.
Remember? Segregated, yeah, yes, obviously, right? It says right there, library affluent only, and then another library, poor only, right? So this would be an example of segregation because everyone is separated based on their economic status, or in this terms of how much money they have. The poor only library. All right, finally we have another one here. It looks like we have a restaurant.
Not segregated.
Not segregated, okay. Here's, yes, let's see here. It is not an example of segregation because everyone is welcome to eat inside, right? Right in the civil rights movement, for restaurants specifically, if you were a colored person, you would have to go to the back of the restaurant to get your food, and we're not allowed to even step inside the restaurant. All right, now we're going to go into the you define. So for this portion, you guys are going to turn to your shoulder partners and say the definition of segregation in your own words. This is your chance to practice saying this new term. Be sure you both state the definition and give several good examples as to why they're good. Okay, well, you guys could, in the real lesson, the students would do this. I will walk around, give them about 5 minutes to do this. And then as you share with your guys' partner, make sure you guys are using the vocabulary learned from this lesson. And I'll be walking around in a few minutes. I will call on you guys to share your definitions. Okay, we're going to simulate that as past time. All right, and then would anyone like to share an example of segregation or how you define segregation yourselves?
So an example of segregation would be that some people were allowed to drink out of a certain water fountain and others wouldn't be able to drink out of that water fountain.
Yes.
Or some people could use a bathroom and others couldn't use that same bathroom.
Correct, yes. That's a perfect example of segregation. Some other responses that I anticipate getting would be that is separating people because they look a little different than you, right? And segregation is bad, and everyone should be allowed to play with anyone they want, right? So very good. Thank you guys for sharing. And then next for the activity, we will be taking out our journals, and I have a little example for you. And enter the term segregation. Here we have enter the term segregation, and go ahead and jot down. We'll cover this up. Go ahead and jot down. This is just an example. Go ahead and jot down the definition of segregation that you guys made for yourselves, and that what you gathered from the examples. You guys don't actually have to do that, but that's just like an activity that I'll have them do. And then I will call on 3 students when we're done to share you guys' definition. And then for homework, now this is where homework will go into play. Now it's your turn to own this concept. For your homework, you guys are the experts. So your task is to find a couple more examples. I want you to find about 2 to 3 more examples of segregation and 2 to 3 more examples of non-examples of segregation. I have an example here of how I want you guys' notebook to look at the end of this. Now for me, I did definitions, but if you guys do want, I do have color crayons here. You guys go ahead and take some home. Just make sure you give them back. You guys go ahead and make pictures or draw pictures of how you think you would, or draw pictures of some more examples of segregation and non-examples of segregation. All right, understood?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Nunez.
All right, thank you guys for the lesson. You guys are awesome.
Yeah.